Getting there. Oh, I keep forgetting that intro is really long. I need to edit down the end of it. Hello, welcome to this episode of Chew the Fat. In case you're wondering what the difference is between an episode of Chew the Fat and a gut reaction video. A gut reaction video is pretty short. It's my initial thoughts on something I go and see, and I try and do them as soon as I can. Technically, this should be a gut reaction video because I literally finished watching the last episode of the Continental about 5 minutes ago. But gut reaction videos are pretty short, and I tend to do them on my own. If I'm doing a Chew the Fat episode, I like to talk about something and get into it a bit more, talk about production stuff, and really dig into the cast and a whole host of other things. And I just realized that one of my friends is actually in the Continental. Do you know what? I did not recognize him until episode 3, which is always a sign of a good actor. Anyway, I am joined by a very special guest today on the channel for the first time. Not my first time interacting with them on YouTube, but now the restraining orders have been lifted, I can bring in Vex Electronica for the first time on the Outcast Creative channel, also known as the Vexorcist, and about 50 other code names. We'll get into those. That's a whole different stream.
I see that. Queen of the Dead Cats, Here
Yeah.
Comes Trouble, and Henry Cavill's #1 stalker.
Yeah, I can't take credit for all of those. Mrs. Sasquatch threw me about a dozen titles to choose from, and I picked out the best of the bunch there. Joking aside, Vex is a huge fan of Henry Cavill, and as I'm only 2 degrees away from Henry Cavill on the Kevin Bacon chart of 5 degrees, I'm trying to get Vex a signed headshot of Henry Cavill. So we'll see what happens. Maybe Santa will come for Christmas and drop that off for you for me.
I would much rather Henry Cavill came in other ways, if you catch my drift.
This is a child-friendly channel, and by that I mean for people that are relatively sane. That counts me out, of course. But anyway, yes, no more Henry Cavill talk. That's it. I said 30 seconds of Cavill talk maximum this evening. Let's get into the Continental, if indeed we have a gold coin that allows us access. Just going to see who we got in the chat here. By the way, thanks guys for watching. If you don't mind, if you're on social media, which I suspect you are because you're on YouTube, give us a shout out. Just do a little copy and paste a link and stick it on your social media and encourage others to come and watch. Also, all of Vex's information is down there, so you can subscribe to her channel, check out her Twitter and all the rest of it. She is also on the Cannoli Sasquatch channel on a Monday most nights, which is a good friend of mine, and I'm going to be on there this Monday discussing The Departed, one of my favorite films of all time. So we've got Leroy Peters, who's an accomplished author of Western novels, in the chat. Talking of restraining orders, there's Sassy Sasquatch. So we've also got Keith E, who's always here. King of the Pumpkin People is here, of course. Michael Sarah, don't tell anyone. And then Desert Phoenix, another one of my big fans who's always here. Ollie Hollingdale, film director and writer, is in the house. So I have to see it yet, but only because I've got John Wick fatigue. Chapter 3 and 4 went OTT fast and furious, ridiculous. It did a bit. John Wick 4 was a bit too. I mean, I'm going to say at the beginning of this stream and before we get into the Continental, you have to go into the Continental with the view that this is the world of John Wick. Therefore, absolute bullshit will happen in terms of reality, in terms of, the things that people can take and all the rest of it. Absolute bullshit will happen. You have to accept that as a reality in the same way you've got to accept that with the John Wick films. But I did feel that John Wick 4 pushed the bullshitometer a bit too far. Would you
agree?
Too
far.
A bit, well, over the top and beyond, I think is probably So and we got Lance Chafin, my fellow namesake, in the chat. White Bear, I love Whitey. I don't think you've been on my channel yet, dude. You need to come on. So we got to sort that out. And I've got loads of stuff lined up, man. So there's going to be stuff. Ollie has been on before. He's popped on. The funny thing about Ollie, right, is he actually looks exactly like John Wick. He's a cross between John Wick and Jon Snow. And I mean, he is a dead ringer for Jon Snow. In fact, Ollie, can you send me your best Jon Snow lookalike picture and your best John Wick picture on Facebook now? Facebook message them to me and I'll put them up. I'll put them up on the stream so Vex can see what I'm talking about. Although, you know, you may gain an extra stalker as a result of this. So just kidding.
No.
Four John Wick movies were off the train, even if they're not realistic. Yeah, it's not a huge criticism. I liked them, but for the fourth one, I don't like being taken out of the reality of the film a bit too much. And when I keep going, oh, come on, really? For me, that's a bit too much. I mean, Vex, were you on that same mindset?
No, I was, because I went to go see this in the theater, and oh my goodness,
No, I saw it in the theater.
Yeah, I was dehydrated by the end of it because I didn't want to have to leave to pee at any point. But it just felt like every action sequence, which I guess was the whole movie, because there was really just no standstill. I was just waiting for the scene to end. It just kept going and going and going. And it's not to say the action and the choreography wasn't bad, but it was too much. It was far too over the top.
That staircase fight. I've got a picture of my dad walking up that staircase actually from the 1950s, which is a beautiful photo of my dad walking up that same staircase. But you know, they get to the top and then they fall down again, and then loads more bad guys appear.
Yeah.
Oh, cat fight going, something cat action happening behind you. What?
See, they're not dead.
No, they're alive, but they might be dead by the end of the stream because it looks like a punch up or something. I don't know. There was a dead one.
One of them shat on my bed right before this, so that's why there's no sheet on my mattress.
It's all happening on the Outcast Creative channel. So, yeah, but Ollie, I know you've got pictures of you looking like John Wick from ages ago. They don't need to be recent ones, dude, because he's currently directing a fantasy epic film called The World of Castles. It's not called that, it's called something else. But yeah, so anyway, okay. Well, let's get into the Continental. But Ollie, definitely send me those pictures, man. All right. So how I want to do this is great. Now my mouse is locked up for some reason. Let me just turn it off and on again. Hold on. How I want to do this is I don't want to go through the whole plot in one go. I'll let Cannoli do that at a later date. What I'd like to
done a TV show on MMM, and I'd like to at some point.
What's that?
Like on MMM, we haven't done a TV show yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm there. I've got one of the new things that's coming out on my channel, which the first episode is tomorrow. I'm doing something called the Best of British Drama TV. The Best of British, and the first episode is about the two drama series, recent ones that have been made about Jack the Ripper, but the Yorkshire Ripper. Sorry, the Yorkshire Ripper.
This is a new series.
Yeah, there's a new series called The Long Shadow, which is 7 parts, and
is it done?
It's out. It's on ITV.com, and I think it's also on one of the major international platforms. It's exceptionally good. If you go onto YouTube and you look for The Hunt for the Yorkshire Ripper, you can find that on there. That was made in the early 2000s. That's a 2-parter, 90 minutes each, and that's also very good, but very different. So I'm gonna be talking about both of those in detail tomorrow. And then I'm going to be talking about one of the best television shows ever made, British dramas, which is called Our Friends in the North. That is coming next Saturday. Right. So, and then I'm doing Cutthroat Island on Saturday. Oh, it's like we're at the end of the show already. What am I doing all this stuff now? We'll cover that again later. So, okay, my mouse is working. Very good. All right, Continental. So, did you binge it all in one day?
No, I watched it week after week.
Okay. And I watched the first 2 episodes together,
Mhm.
and then I watched the 3rd episode today. So give me your overview of the show. When I first heard about it, because all the other spin-offs and things, particularly anything that Disney had their hands on, all of that kind of everything that was coming out was pretty bad. So I was thinking, not too sure about this show. Is there room for a John Wick prequel? How's that going to work? But I've been pleasantly surprised. I watched the first episode and I thought, actually, this is quite interesting, and I quite like what they've done with this. And I like the younger versions of the characters; they were well cast and so on. What was you watch episode 1? What's your initial reaction?
So similar to you, I'm just thinking, okay, spin-off, which means this is going to be creatively bankrupt, probably chock full of messaging because it's 2023 and we haven't really been gifted a whole lot of great television yet. So I guess I went into it with really low expectations, and then 20 minutes into the first episode, I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." I had to start pausing it because I was catching all these little details that they were working into the world. So
Yeah,
that first episode I thought was phenomenal. Premiere, great way to set up the world, set up the characters, introduce everything. Um, I I wasn't expecting this to be over the top action like the films. I know a lot of people were expecting that because John Wick, right?
yeah, yeah.
But for me, it's like I watched that first trailer and I was like, it's an origin. We're not they're trying to tell us where everything came from, so we're not going to get nonstop action. So it met my expectation and predictions in that way.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on all of those points. Briefly, here we go. My friend Ollie's John Wick picture. Not bad, eh?
You must get a lot of ladies at funerals. Just saying.
So, well, Ollie's been on the channel before. He's been on as a guest. I think actually for a couple of Chew the Fat episodes and one of my top 5s. I'm sure he'll be on again. So he's an interesting character. So and a filmmaker like myself,
Mhm.
and makes a lot of stuff independently. I think he also may have sent me a. I'm not going to show them the picture of you now, dude. Let's not kill the illusion. That's you on set wearing your nomad clothes. I'm not showing that. So if you want to send me your Jon Snow picture, because I know you got one of them as well, I'll put it up. Look, Sassy Sasquatch said, "Holy shit, she's already filing divorce papers. Wants Ollie's address. What's going on?" So okay, let's get back on track. Yeah, I think there are some things about the show that does irk me a little bit, but there's a lot of positives with this show in my view. So what I'd like to do is focus on the positives, and talk about those. So for anyone who doesn't, I'm not going to get into too many spoilers because I don't like doing that on my show. But for anybody who doesn't know the basic premise, this is set in the 1970s in New York City. The Continental has been going for a while, and it explores the origins of the iconic hotel, which of course is the centerpiece of the John Wick universe. And the majority of the story is seen through the eyes and the actions of a young Winston Scott, and that is the character that's played by, oh my God, Lovejoy, Ian.
Colin Woodall.
Yeah, but what's the actor's name in the movies? Who plays him? The actor who plays him in the movies, the older actor.
Ian McShane.
Ian McShane. I said Ian. I couldn't remember his surname. Ian McShane. So you're really introduced to the young Ian McShane, and then you're also introduced to a couple of other younger versions of characters that we've come across in the John Wick movies, and the casting of all of the those people is, I have to say, is pretty good. So let's get into that. And it's really about how, I guess, his character, the character of Winston Scott, comes to take over and own the Continental, and he has to battle the original owner, which is Mel Gibson's character. Mel Gibson is pretty good in this, isn't he?
I was actually a little. I thought he was like not off to the greatest start in the first episode. But by the third episode, I
Yeah.
was actually quite enjoying him as the villain. There was a lot of. I don't think most audiences would pick it up because almost at face value, he seems like a pretty stereotypical villain. But there were a lot of little drip feeds in the background and the world building that actually made him like a genuinely good villain. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, I did too. And you're right. The devil is in the detail. There is a lot of stuff in. I've watched the first episode twice now, and I picked up on a lot of things that I didn't notice the first time round. You know how it is because your phone's going off and you're watching these things at home, and there's distractions. It's rare that, even though directors would love it, and I'm talking about myself here, it's rare that we get to sit down and watch stuff in a really concentrated form. And I was at a film premiere last night at the London Film Festival, and I shit you not, some of the people that worked on that film were on their phones during the screening in the middle of the audience. And this is an audience that's paid to come and see it. So I was not happy.
Oh, that's why you were talking about that on your
Yeah.
stream earlier this week. I gotcha.
Yeah. Well, because I reviewed the film last night, and not a bad movie at all. But you know, you can only see a film for the first time once, and if your first time viewing experience of that film is being distracted by people on their phones, that's going to influence your opinion of that movie. Anyway, I was able to focus on this pretty well throughout the whole thing. I want to talk about the cast. So this is, although it is Winston Scott's story, I would say that this is an ensemble cast piece with multiple character narratives. It's quite complicated, actually. You do need to pay attention. If you got it on in the living room and you go out and make a cup of tea in the kitchen and you come back 5 minutes later, you're probably likely to have missed about 2 or 3 major plot points. So I did have to pause it whenever I went out. It's not a show where you can do that sort of faffing about. So let's talk about the cast. So Colin Woodall, who's an actor that initially I wasn't familiar with, but I have seen him in some things before. He plays the young Winston Scott. I have to say, although I didn't feel like I was seeing a young version of Ian McShane's character, I did think he was very good.
Agreed.
And I saw him in The Flight Attendant. That's the other thing I've seen him in mainly. Did you like him?
I actually could see him in, like, side by side. I saw the picture comparison from like the casting news. I can actually sort of see visually the relation. I also thought in terms of actual mannerisms, I could see that it was the same character, but albeit a bit more naive because he is much younger, right?
That's true. He's not got the gravitas of McShane's sort of older version, which is fair enough.
It makes sense, right? But I could see, even just like in the way he walks down a hallway, the way he carries himself in a room, like even this scene in the second episode where he meets Macy, like I could see Ian McShane's version of the character pretty clearly in his portrayal.
Yeah, this guy's going to be doing leading roles in feature films.
I really hope he does. I'd never heard of him or seen him in anything before this, and solid actor. I'd like to see him in more.
Yeah, I didn't know him by name, but I obviously I go and I check what people have done, and as soon as I saw his credits, I was like, oh yeah, I've seen him in that, and I've seen him in that, but his name wasn't on my radar yet, but it certainly is now. Mel Gibson doesn't really need any introduction. He is the current owner of the Continental in the sort of present timeline. Let's just have a quick look at the Continental location, in fact, which is, I'll just pull it out here. There we go. Because, we get to do this stuff when I do streams, because being a director, I like to know these things. Where do they film it? How do they film it? How do
It's
they shoot?
okay. I get curious too about where everything is filmed, so I'm right
Yeah.
with you there.
Well, this is the actual Continental location in Beaver Street in New York. It's actually a steak restaurant called Delmonico's. I bet they're going to have something called the Continental Steak on the menu now. They've got to do some kind of tie-in. But this is the actual building.
Mhm.
And they did use this real building for exterior shots. And we'll talk about where the rest of it was filmed later. But I
Mhm.
thought people would be interested to see that. So if you want to go onto Google Earth, people, look up Delmonico's in New York, Manhattan. It's on Beaver Street, and you'll find it. That's
How are the
where.
reviews for that steakhouse?
That's a good question. Somebody in chat, check that out, because we don't want to go down that steak rabbit hole. But
Mhm.
I'll get Leroy Peters on that. He's a bit of a steak guy. So let's go back to our cast. There was some cast I liked more than others, but I wasn't watching anyone. There wasn't anyone in it where I thought,
Mhm.
can't stand this person. Had that the other night, but no, I thought everybody did appropriately with what they were given script wise. I think some people got to do more than others, and some people had better characters than others and better
Mhm.
narratives than others. Desert Phoenix saying they probably do a continental breakfast. Yeah, I'm sure they do. So we got Misha Prada, who plays KD. Now, she's the cop. Is that
Yes.
right?
First female detective in her precinct, to be
Right.
exact.
Her character really annoyed me until the third episode.
Really?
Yeah, I thought wrongly, I have to say, that she
Mhm.
was the weakest character because I didn't like the way she was being played, and she felt like she was a bit too good at everything, and yada yada yada, until the twist was revealed, and then I thought, everything she's done up to now makes complete sense.
I actually felt the opposite. I didn't mind her. I wouldn't go as far as to say I like her, but I didn't mind her at all because it yes, she was a strong female character, but it wasn't so much she was strong for the sake of having a strong female character. It's like
Right.
all she seemed to be following kind of a natural flow of where her character was supposed to go. So
Aren't
I had
we
no problems with her.
aren't we introduced to her? She's in bed with someone who's handcuffed to the bed.
Her
Isn't that what?
superior, her married
Yeah,
superior.
yeah. I didn't want to give away that plot point, but yeah. I mean, she's having an affair with her boss. I kind of liked that introduction. I thought it was pretty cool, pretty funny. Um, so Whitey's saying he's heard the crime rate on Beaver Street is pretty bad because it can get quite hairy there. I see what you did that. I see what you did there, Whitey. Um, yeah, I mean, of the lead cast, I just felt like I'd seen this character in other shows before, and that's no disrespect to her acting. Thought she
Mhm.
was perfectly fine. The character felt a bit familiar until we got the twist, and then I thought, okay, now a lot of the things that were irking
I
me
hated
before
that twist, by the way. I thought
make
it
sense.
completely ruined the
It was
entire
a bit
arc of
naff.
everyone.
It
Yeah.
was a bit naff. Yeah, I'll be honest. I wasn't. I thought that fire thing was going to be relevant, but I didn't think it was going to be relevant in that way. I thought it was going to connect to somebody else,
There you
one
go.
of the villains or something like that.
I thought
Um,
it was more just to reinforce a lot of the kind of like some of the subplots and the subtext that we got for some of the characters. So like we
yeah,
know that Cormac made the Scott brothers do a lot of bad things when they were young. So the burning building was kind of to show the extent of that. There's a whole kind of idea of rebirth that's carried through from the first episode and just kind of accumulates in the final scenes of the last episode. So I didn't
mm,
think it was going to tie into any characters aside from just giving us a little bit more detail to understand kind of the plights that some of these guys are going through. Um, I actually thought that she was supposed to be more symbolic of the viewer, because she's like, she understands that it's a very crime-ridden city. She knows that there's a lot going on, but at the same time, she's completely unfamiliar with this whole underground secret assassin world that's
Yeah,
just lurking beneath the surface. Because in that first episode, Mayhew, her superior, is like, you don't go there. You don't deal with that. Just if you see anything happen there, you just kind of ignore it. That's the rules that we follow. So,
yeah,
and for her to just be more piqued by that, I was like, okay, that's what she's going to represent. And then they did that twist, which made no sense at all to me. It was thrown in there. It wasn't really alluded to in any way for her, like in terms of her character specifically, aside from,
yeah.
that thing that Mayhew finds in her apartment. But even then, it's you
That
wouldn't
makes
put
me
two and
that
two.
makes me wonder if that was a rewrite. I wonder.
Yeah, I'm wondering
Mm,
that as well.
mm, yeah, I mean, who knows? But not a bad actress. And yeah, I mean, her character was perfectly fine. I have other characters that I preferred. Um,
Mhm.
this is the cop who
Mayhew.
is, yeah, Mayhew, who is also her boss. It wasn't. There's a fight with him in a phone box
hmm
in episode 3. I thought that was a great scene.
I like that too. That was, I think, one of my
Yeah,
favorite scenes in the entire series. That
I've
box
got
fight.
that listed down as now. This, I mean, for people that haven't seen this yet, this show is essentially, it's a mini series. It's essentially 3 90-minute feature films, and
hmm
in fact, the last episode is longer than that. I think it's about 1 hour 48 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and it feels like sort of 3 um, mini feature films. High production value, good action scenes, good acting for the most part, decent script. Some things that annoy me, but I'll get onto those. But that's what you're going to get. Just before we finish with the cast, I wanted to mention this at the beginning and I forgot. The script was originally developed by, or the concept of doing a prequel series was originally developed by Derek Kolstad. Now that's the script writer that did Nobody,
hmm
which was of course picked up recently and made into a very successful film. And then Chad Stileski, who's the stunt coordinator who then came up with the John Wick franchise, very much the kind of helmsman. It was the two of them that were going to do it. Now, I don't know what happened, but various people were asked to pitch prequel stories,
hmm
and ultimately theirs was rejected, and they don't have any credit on this at all. So something went down there. I'll tell you now,
When
as
did they
someone who,
pitch it?
well, they pitched a version of a prequel back
hmm
in. This has been in production since 2017, I think. Yeah, that's how long stuff takes a long time to get made these days.
I'm assuming COVID didn't help as well, so that
No, probably
probably
not.
played it.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was they did. Let me just check the detail here. Yeah, because the original production, 2017, Derek and Chad conceiving ideas for a prequel story, and they thought, yeah, best do this as a TV series. It was in full development in 2017. It was called the Continental even back then, set in the John Wick universe, and then Lionsgate gave the green light in January 2018 for the series to air on the Stars network. Chris Collins was the showrunner, and Stileski was going to direct the pilot. And then I don't know what happened, but in April 2021, said the team wanted to make sure the series, well, Lionsgate, the head of Lionsgate, who's Kevin Beggs, wanted to make sure it would add to the John Wick universe without inhibiting any plans of the future films.
hmm
So then all the information I have here is after hearing multiple pitches from different creative teams, Lionsgate settled on the approach presented by Greg Coolidge, Kirk Ward, and Sean Simmons, reworking it as an event series of 3 90-minute episodes following a young Winston in 1970s. So, and that's what happened. The show was directed by Albert Hughes of the two Hughes brothers, who are no longer currently not co-directing together. He's a very talented director. And Charlotte Brandstorm, who did 6 episodes of The Rings of Power.
There's a couple. One of the writers on here was also a Rings of Power writer.
Right.
Mhm.
So, yeah, okay. I mean, I can see that,
Mhm.
and that I'm going to draw attention to some of the flaws. Anyway, let's get back to the cast. What do we think of Hubert Point-Dujour and Jessica Allen in these two roles?
I had no problems with their performances. I just thought, the third episode was really the weakest for me.
I agree.
The arcs didn't feel satisfactory the way that they closed out. I feel that these characters are, if they decide to do a second series, I feel that's probably where they're going to flourish. But I had no problem with them. I was liking what they were doing until that third episode.
Yeah. Wiley's just asking, so these 3, is that it, or do they plan on making more? We're not sure yet, but this mini-series is very much a self-contained prequel story of how the Continental got started. There are some things left hanging in the air at the end, but it's perfectly fine to just watch this. You can just watch this even if you haven't seen any John Wick films. You
Yeah,
don't
there's
need.
it's really just a little like fan service almost. You can watch this on its own completely and still know what's going on.
So to elaborate on what you said, I think both of these characters, both of these actors were excellent, but and I know Leroy's strongly disagreeing here in the chat, and mate, you're perfectly entitled to do that. I wish I don't think there is a show that's without weakness, but the problem I had with Jessica Allen's character is that she was fucking phenomenal at absolutely everything. She survived encounters where I just was thinking, this guy just would have shot you, while all his minions are distracting you. The fight outside the Chinese restaurant before he invites her in for the chat. One of his own men tries to pull a gun out and kill her. So if he wanted to kill her there and then, he could have just done it, really. And I found that storyline all got a bit nonsensical.
Agreed.
Her narrative was, I'm here to make my dad's dojo work, even though it's not particularly doing any business. I'm not going to let anybody take it away from me. Oh no, I've blown it up. Never mind. And I don't know, man. It just didn't seem like she didn't kind of go from here to here to here to the only point where she was really in danger was right at the end when she was nearly getting her neck broken. And that was the only time in the show I felt that she was in jeopardy. She was just a bit too good at everything. I mean, it was good that she met her match at the end, but I just felt that was the only blip in her narrative arc. Hubert Point-Dujour got to do a lot less, and we saw a lot less of him, but he was perfectly fine. His character was less interesting because he just wasn't so pivotal for me.
I would have actually liked them to expand more on his character
Yeah.
instead of hers, because he had this whole one of the big things that they introduced in the first episode was just the state of society as it is, right? We're post Vietnam. There's historically in this time, there's a ton of garbage strikes happening in New York City. That's why it's so filthy. And none of these characters, even our protagonists, are good guys. None of them are good people, right? So I would have liked to explore him more because he was a lot more reflective of some of these underlying themes that the show was trying to get across. And on top of that, he had the strongest tie to not only Frankie but to Winston comparatively. And just again, the whole Black Vietnam vet thing is something I would have much preferred them to explore instead of this pointless, save the dojo thing, which I agree. That fight scene outside the Chinese restaurant was I was watching it, okay, this is choreographed really nicely, but this is just fucking ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
it really broke the immersion because it was much like John Wick Chapter 4, where it's like, what?
I also, I don't know if you noticed, but there's definitely a nod in this show to Big Trouble in Little China,
I did
because it's,
notice it, yes.
yeah, because it's called Burton Karate, Jack
Mhm,
Burton.
mhm.
Yeah, and I picked up on that. And there's also a shot of the dojo with the neon signs, and it's a complete replica shot of one of the scenes in Big Trouble. I thought that was kind of cool. Then we have Iyemode Adigun. I think I pronounced that correctly. Nigerian actor. Now, he had really big shoes to fill because he's playing a young Lance Riddick. I thought he did a great job. What did you think?
I actually really loved his character. I had no problems with him whatsoever. In terms of, like I mentioned, all these characters are bad. I think he had the purest soul of all of them. But that's simply because, and we find out in the second episode, he comes from an already very violent, very war torn background back home in Nigeria at this point in time. So
Yeah.
for him to come out the character he is and to have a bit of moral nuance that we don't see in a lot of the other characters, I really liked it. I really enjoyed that rooftop scene between him and the cellist. I thought that was really great. It actually ended up enhancing Lance Reddick's portrayal in the movies, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So
and I think yeah, as Leroy said, R.I.P. Lance Reddick. I couldn't believe it when I heard he passed away.
he's too young,
Um,
far too
Now,
young.
can you believe that this is Adigan's first television job and professional acting role outside of theatre?
I
Not
would
bad,
not
eh?
believe that. Not bad at all.
Not bad. So, Adigan, if you watch this, and I'm gonna make sure that my friend in the show makes you watch it. Well done, mate. You did Lance Reddick really proud, and I'm sure a lot of people that are watching the show agree. So, yeah, really liked him. Liked his character. Kind of knew he was going to do what he was going to do at the end, even
Yes.
though they really did spin that along, so you weren't sure. But I kind of knew that
Mhm.
was coming. Now we have these two, this assassin duo, who are, by the way, their scene in the first episode for me was the best scene. Their introduction, I really loved them.
I did
Um,
too.
I like to call this guy Bad Hair John Wick. He kind of looks like a cross between, somebody who should be in the Monkeys and, if John Wick himself was around in the 70s, this is what he would have looked like.
He kind
Um,
of looks like an eviler version of Jimmy Savile, in all honesty.
yeah, he's kind of Jimmy Savile, John Wick. I
Yeah.
can see that. If they'd given him a blonde wig, man, that would have been. Now I'm trying to find
One
the
for one.
actor. What's this character's name?
They are called Hansel and Gretel.
That was it, right? So we've got Marina Mazpa playing Gretel. She was very good, I thought.
Mhm.
Good actress. I do like her very sort of final Tarantino-esque confrontation
Mhm.
at the end with Nagun Cates, who plays Yen, who's also a very good actress. That was a lot of fun. Their fight, their kind of face off. Just trying to find Hansel here on IMDb. I can't seem to see him. He must. Oh, there he is, Mark Mushai. So he's not an actor I'm familiar with. I'm just curious to see what else he's done. So he's was born in Japan, and has 80 stunt credits. So predominantly a stuntman,
Mhm.
but 30 acting credits. He's been in stunts wise. He's been in everything from Fear the Walking Dead, The Last of Us, the video game, Just Cause. So he obviously does, CGI capture for a lot of the
Mhm.
stuff like that. Uncharted, this kind of thing. Acting wise, in addition to what we've got here, let's see. before the Continental, quite a lot of computer games, Resident Evil 2, this sort of thing, Last Witch Hunter, Masterless. Not seen a lot of this stuff. Mortal Kombat Legacy. I mean, if he's predominantly a stunt man, I think he did, because those characters don't have a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
And actually, for me, that's what makes them great.
I'm glad these two never said a word. I like
yeah,
it.
but they had a really good language in their mannerisms and their expressions and everything. So I mean, there's no doubt that these guys can act, because they really created characters. I thought that they were a lot of fun. Yeah, I like them. Both of those actors, and be good to see them do more stuff.
Is she also a stunt? Sorry, is she also a stunt woman?
No, that's a good point. Let me have a look. Also, she's from the Ukraine.
The Ukraine?
She's from the Ukraine. 10 acting credits, not also a stunt person, but she's done a couple of physical roles, mainly in Malignant, where she's listed as a physical performer. She was in Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. What a great movie that was. Yeah, I didn't really like that. And The Unholy. So she's relatively new as well, and what a great role for her. I'll tell you what, you would not recognize her in Raccoon City. Look up the still of her in that film on her IMDb. I don't want to take this one down right now, but yeah, you wouldn't recognize her in that.
Hold on, let me.
I liked this character with the mask.
The
and I liked,
adjudicator.
the adjudicator, and I liked the reveal of why she wears the mask at the end. I thought that was pretty cool. And you know, we've got all the stuff that we know about from the world of John Wick. You know, the various committees and things that the Continental is answerable to, and all of that stuff is all in there. Well, I better give a shout out to my friend who's in the show. Let me see if there's a still of him first before we. So he's not in that shot. And that's I really like this actor, by the way, who played the cop. This is it Matthew somebody? Just double check. Where is he? Lance, you're oh, Jeremy Bobb. He plays Mayhew. That's right, Jeremy Bobb. Seen him in a couple of other things. Always consistently good. Yes, I liked him. Really like this guy from Animal Kingdom. He is actually originally a British actor. And of course he has a great opening fight sequence in the pilot in the first episode. I saw exactly what they were doing there. They were like, let's cast someone who looks a bit like John Wick. Let's make him do some John Wick things. And let's put that in the first 10 minutes. So in the first 10 minutes, we're doing fan service, but we're going to make sure it's all relevant to the plot. And that was all perfectly fine with me. He's a great actor, this guy. He was
in I've seen him in Vikings. That's where I recognized him.
Right. Yeah, Vikings. I haven't watched that all the way through. I've only seen the first 2 seasons of that.
It's good. I think the first 3 are the strongest. I kind of started tuning out after that, in all honesty.
My friend Donal Logue plays the Viking King, and I think he comes into the 3rd season. So he's like a major character. We need to do a Vikings stream, Vex. Actually, that'd be good.
I wouldn't mind rewatching that series.
Yeah, once I've watched a lot of hairy beefcake for you in that show, Vex. So you know, why not? But I need to see the whole thing. I think is it Ben Robson? I think it's Ben Robson is the guy from Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. And he was brought up in Newcastle, and you would never believe that. He really does.
He pulls off the American accent really well here.
Yeah. There's our 2 assassins again, Hansel and Gretel. I just want to see if there's a still of my buddy, but I don't think so. Okay, no. So I will show you who he is. So I was watching it, and I was thinking, God, that guy looks just like Chris Ryman. It looks like his double. And lo and behold, it was my friend Chris Ryman. So he is the guy who, in the movie,
The guy in the
is
trailer.
he's manning all the TV screens and the security monitor things.
Very
And
nice.
he's in league with Jessica Allen's character, who brings in the young Oriental kid at the end and says, "Wait here with him." So he's in that room doing all of that. And Chris and I met at a premiere for a short film that he was in called The Bag, which, it was an okay film. He's done quite a few other productions. He's just I remember after the premiere, I met him and I just said straight away, "Look, if I ever get the chance to work with you, let's make it happen." Because he's a particularly gifted actor. And as soon as I saw he was in this, I was just so happy for him, because, getting a break in a show like this for any actor is a big deal. And Chris he's done some things. So, he's done a few big shows, like a couple of these religious movies and stuff like that. I think he's done a few video games as well. And, a couple of other independent British films. But this is his. This is going to be. I think this is going to be the big break for him. That's going to lead for a lot of other work for him. Clean Skin. That's with Sean Bean. That's right. I think he'd just come off that when I met him. He's a really great actor, and he's a really lovely guy, which is always nice. So we like people in the industry that are nice, because it means we're always going to want to work with them. So actors, take note. So that's Chris Ryman. Who else on the cast? Anyone else we want to give a shout out to? Katie McGrath was the adjudicator. I thought she was pretty good. Irish actress. Also in Supergirl, plays Lena Luthor. I haven't seen Supergirl. I haven't seen Jurassic World. She's also in Merlin. I have seen Merlin. She played Morgana in Merlin, 65 episodes. So
she's the assistant in Jurassic World. That's where I recognize her from.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I kind of tuned out of the new Jurassic Park movies.
That's fair.
It's just like, more big CGI. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What's happening with the script? Oh, right. Same thing again, but just with bigger dinosaurs. Okay. All right. So yeah, it wasn't really working for me. Any other cast members we want to give a shout out to? The young actors in it were pretty good, I thought.
Yen was the standout of the entire cast.
Which one?
Yen.
Yen.
Kate. I don't know if I pronounced that right.
I have to say, again, because they made her character. This was in my notes. I don't know if you've read the original graphic novel of The Boys, which of course is now a TV show. We need another stream about that. But
I hate that show, by the way. I think that's despicable.
The graphic novel is so much better, and I'm quite disappointed in it. It started off okay, and I've just seen the spin-off, and really, who wants to see people getting killed by period blood?
Apparently really? Enough people to make that show.
apparently, but some things should be sacred. But anyway, but in the original graphic novel of The Boys, there is a sort of Asian, can't remember her exact origin. I think she's a Japanese girl. She's very quiet. She has almost no dialogue in the comic, and she looks really small and weedy. And of the boys' gang, she is the most lethal. She can kill people with her bare hands really quickly, take down like 5 guys like they were not even there. And her character is very similar, and not to the way she's portrayed in the TV show, but to the way she's portrayed in the comic. And if I was casting it or recasting it, this is the girl I would put in that part. I really liked her. Really good. What else has she done? So she's from Hanoi College of Arts, Vietnam, Bitcoin Heist, Hollow, Housemaid. I'm not sure I've seen any of these things. I don't think I've seen. This is the first thing I've seen her in. Well, I don't think it's going to be the last thing we're going to see her in, is it? And what's she doing here? She looks like she's an avatar here. Oh no, that's just the blue lighting. Okay. Any other cast members we wanna shout out? No. Oh, have you muted yourself? I've lost your audio. Or is that because you're eating something, or are you being attacked by cats?
No, I have a baby here. That's why.
Ah, there we go. Yeah.
No, I think that's it for the cast.
Right. Let's talk a bit more about the production then. So just a couple of other. I haven't got a Batman theme and with Vex's head spinning around, but I'm going to cover some other trivia things. So, how did you like the music?
Loved it. I really loved it. I didn't think it was over the top. It didn't feel that it was injected unnecessarily. It was fun. As I think it teetered out a little bit after the first episode. Like the music was really strong in the first episode, and then we didn't get it as much. But overall, the soundtrack was phenomenal. And Leroy brings up a good point. Gene, we didn't go over Gene at all.
I've just seen that, and he's quite right. And
Yes.
I don't even know how I missed this guy, because this actor is one of my favorite character actors right now, and I think I missed him just because he's not in the.
He's on the top ones, yeah.
No, he's not in the top page. Leroy, thank you so much for quite rightly correcting me and Vex for not including him. Let's just find him. It's Ray McKinnon, isn't it? Ray McKinnon is a phenomenal actor. He's quite similar in a lot of the roles that he plays, as in very strange, quirky, mad people. But boy, does he do it well.
I love Gene. I think Gene was my favorite character aside from Yen in this series, in all honesty.
Yeah, I really liked him. Leroy hated him in Mayans and Sons of Anarchy. I don't know. I kind of liked him in that. Show. But Ray McKinnon, great actor, very versatile. Played a huge range of different roles. He is so good in the show Dope Sick. I did an episode about Dope Sick. If you haven't watched it, I think it's still available on Disney. It's about the OxyContin crisis. It's told from multiple narratives. It's Michael Keaton's performance of his career. In my opinion, his performance in Dope Sick is even better than his performance in Birdman. So if you haven't seen Dope Sick, which Ray McKinnon is also in, this is a picture here.
All right.
Definitely, I'll tell you now, it's a 9.5 out of 10 for me. Dope Sick. It's the best show I saw I think it came out in 21. So it was like my number one pick for that year.
Wow.
So so thank you, Leroy, for pointing out that we missed a couple of people. So we were talking about the music. You really liked it. Did you know it's done by a British DJ? And he's one of these people that just goes by a single name, like, Director X kind of thing. Yeah, not quite that pretentious. Rafferty is his name. DJ by Rafferty, known for doing music to inhabit spaces, as written on his Wikipedia page. But he's a pretty well-known international DJ who does gigs in places like Ibiza, Berlin, all this sort of thing.
The name sounds a little familiar.
Yeah, the sort of music that you had playing in that John Wick nightclub scene in John Wick 4, where no one kind of reacts to the massive gunfight going on around and people dying. Because we're so used to those things now, of course.
I chalked it up to all of them were probably on MDMA, and you totally tune out of your environment in that case then.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly comment. No experience of that sort of illegal type activity. So Bout of Vex's Judgment. But yeah, so I thought it was a bit crap. MDMA or not, if a gunshot goes off in a nightclub these days, people run, because it's been happening a bit too often lately.
Especially in Europe. You don't hear gunshots very often there.
No, indeed. Yeah, and when it happens in Europe, people are using AK-47s. You know, so White Bear says Goth Lance would know. Goth Lance was very sober and boring and didn't even drink alcohol, buddy. But he's saying that because he's seen a picture of me as a goth with long black hair. Could you believe such a thing? It's true.
Where is this picture? Can I see this picture?
I'm afraid you have to tune into a different stream for that. You have to be part of the White Bear membership Patreon stream to access these kinds of photos. Okay, so yeah, let's continue. So music, we both like the music. Music's very good. What do we think about the way it was shot, how it looked, all of that? Because
No
I
issues.
don't know who the DOP was on it, but let's have a quick look. Interesting to see how many writers we were saying. Sean Simmons, Kirk Ward, Greg Coolidge were so look, you can see Derek Kolstad has been credited because based on the feature film by, and he wrote 3 of the features at that time. Then you've got a staff writer, Glenys Mullins. So, you know, there's a few fingers in the pies there. Maybe when I come on to some of the criticisms, that might account for so many producers. How many do we need? So here we go. So we've got 2 DOPs. Fortunately, Vex has volunteered to pronounce the name of this one. Go for it, Vex.
Paul Ulvik Roxeth.
Yeah. So I have seen actually several of this guy's movies. If you have not seen 22nd of July, I believe it's available on Netflix. It's the true story drama of the terrorist attack that took place in Norway, in Oslo, and then the guy went onto the island pretending to be a policeman and shot up loads of...
like 5 or 6 years ago that happened.
Yeah, and he shot up loads of kids. And this actor that's talking now, he was so good. I found him on Facebook and I wrote to him, and me and him had a lovely conversation about his performance and what he did to achieve that performance. 22nd of July is an absolutely fantastic first-class film. I highly recommend it. In fact, I will probably do a stream about that episode. I might even see if I can get that actor to come on. I've also seen The Wave. I've also got Headhunters. I've seen Kon-Tiki. So, I mean, this is a guy who knows how to shoot a good film. I've not seen North Sea. I'll have to check that out.
I haven't seen any of this stuff, but now that you've told me that July 22nd thing is on Netflix, I think I'll check it out.
I think it's, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Netflix that it's on.
It has Netflix on the poster that you pulled up.
There you go. So. Absolutely 100% worth watching. Let's look at the other one. Peter Deming. That sounds like a British DOP. No, he was born in Beirut, Lebanon. No, that teaches me. And he has shot Mulholland Drive, Twin Peaks, the remake. Yeah, the remake. The Menu. So that was very stylistic.
Yes.
Shotgun Wedding, which I haven't seen. Capone, which I have seen. Oz the Great and Powerful, which
Cabin
I've
in the
seen.
Woods. I quite enjoyed that. Same with Drag Me to Hell. I didn't mind.
Yeah, Drag Me to Hell was actually, I think that's quite an underrated movie.
I agree. It's fun for what it is. I think people harp on it because it is kind of corny here and there, but it does what it needs to do really well.
It's our man who directed Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven, isn't it? It's a Wes Craven.
I know, Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi film.
Is it Sam Raimi? I thought it was Wes Craven. Austin Powers Gold member. He did one of the Austin Powers films. He did Man of Mystery, several of the Scream films, SFW. That was not a bad little film. So yeah, he's a competent director who's been around for a very long time. I suspect the reason for there being 2 DOPs on this film is because they probably used one in Budapest, Hungary, which is where most of the interiors were filmed, and the other DOP probably did all the exteriors in New York. So I'm guessing that's why there were 2. May not have been. I mean, you can see here, the different names of the different art directors, for example. A lot of Hungarian names there. So in terms of the studio in question, it was Origo Studios, which is let me just pull this and pop this here. Oh, hold on, need to mute that. Sorry. We can get rid of that. Yeah. So if I just do present this. Oh, now my mouse has glitched again. Oh, wait, there we go. I know what I'm doing. Of course, honest. So, yeah, I mean, did you, in terms of like the look, the action, all of that stuff, did all of that stuff work for you?
I really liked the way it was shot. Personally, I really like the cinematography as well. I like the sets a lot. The action, it's on a TV budget, right? So for what they were able to accomplish, top notch. Especially that opening scene where we get Frankie in the stairwell. Like that's almost on par with the John Wick films. So
Yeah, I thought that action scene was very cinematic, and in fact, the whole show looked pretty cinematic. I can't find out what the budget is, but somebody in chat might know. But I'm going to guess for the three of them, it was probably around 40 to 50 million for the three. I mean, maybe it's less. I don't know. I'd be very interested to know. This is Origo Film Studios that you can see right now. So this is where this is a studio just outside of Budapest. Shoots a lot of major films. I'll tell you what's really funny though is when you go onto the street view right next to the studio, you come down here. I was having a little drive around earlier, and then you turn just over the road. Here's a massive toxic waste plant right next to the film studio. So just in case of any explosive scenarios, actors maybe pack your own nuclear waste
hazmat suit and
hazmat suit, and just in case you get a Hiroshima situation. It's not a nuclear plant, but it is like it's a waste plant. So it's if it explodes, your clothes are gonna need a good wash. Is what I'm gonna say. But it's quite funny that's like right next to the film studio. If I zoom out, you can see in relation to the outskirts of Budapest that if you've got a hotel in the center of Budapest and you're one of the lead actors, you got a bit of a drive to and from set there every morning. And other stuff that's been shot there recently includes things like June and Brimstone, Blade Runner, the new one, Berlin Station, Mars, a whole load of stuff. And the reason why a lot of reasonably big budgeted productions like shooting there is very simple, because they have this wonderful thing. Here's the company website. They have this wonderful thing called the 30% Hungarian tax credit. And that means that you get a cash rebate of 30% on all your eligible Hungarian and non-Hungarian spends, eligibility of, blah, 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 blah. So basically you get 30% back of what you spend in that country.
Wow. That explains a lot, because I always wondered why when I look into the filming locations for so many like mainstream films, it was always Budapest.
Yeah. That's one of the highest tax breaks that comes back in Europe. So
I recall, doesn't the UK do something similar? Because DC just relocated all of their film studios to the UK for the same reason.
Yeah, we've got much better tax breaks for film than we did have. It's not as high as 30%. If it is, that's news to me. I don't think it's as high as that. A couple of other locations that were used in New York, and this is on another little website I found that did a great breakdown. So this is that Cipriani 25 Broadway, New York City. Looks like an interior of a train station to me, but that's one of the main locations that was used, and 65 high ceiling Italian marble floors. There's a shot of the Arrigo studio with the waste plant tactfully, cut out from that angle. The Witcher, of course, that's also where they filmed The Witcher. In fact, some friends of mine must have shot at that studio because they said they went and used the studio where the Witcher set was in place.
Oh, okay.
It's an interior set. Oh my God, it's a big feline. So,
I just came home from work right before we got, so everyone is a little attention driven right now.
Oh, no problem. That's all right. Cats are very welcome on this show, but I am allergic to them. So as long as they stay on that side of the swamp.
These are hypoallergenic. They're Bengals.
Oh my God. Well, there you go. That's going to kill me. I don't even know what that word means, but it sounds deadly. Right. So going back to the show. Yeah, I had no issues with any of the technicals. For the most part, very happy with the acting. Just going to talk about some of my favorite moments. We both talked about the phone box fight. I thought that was pretty cool. What was Mel Gibson's character sniffing in that hanky before he kind of goes into mad loony mode?
It's they said what it was.
Is it the stuff that like the stuff that dentists use or something?
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, isn't that a thing? You're the expert on the recreational, so come back to me on that. So and then he's got a great liner. I've got a big ass boulder up my sleeve, which I in response to another line which I thought was pretty good. I like the whole Inmicus on Continental grounds, and they have those tubes, and the message comes through, and that message is being delivered by the nerdy looking woman who runs the Xerox machine in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And one of their allies goes down to take that woman out, and I don't understand why that was a bit naff for me. It's like, that everyone in the Continental is going to be an expert at defending themselves because it's the Continental. Why would you assume that the nerdy yet very muscular looking woman with the cool, kind of Yakuza, whatever you call them, the Japanese mafia tattoos on, is not going to be able to kill you, and yet he kind of puts down his gun. And what was all that? That was a bit.
That's one of the biggest problems I had with episode 3 is its plot conveniences for the sake of dragging out the episode, I found. So that was one of those things. Like I kind of could see that he was probably going to be a character that would have things. I don't know. I want to avoid spoilers, but would have certain things happen to him in order to generate a specific response out of characters and input a little bit of this. But at the same time, it's like he's knocked out for about a third of the episode, and it just happened to regain consciousness at a very convenient moment.
Yeah, we kind of had a lightsaber death moment there, with a hand grenade, which really, that was his death. And then it was like we cut back to him later, and he's like, oh, and I was like, oh, I'm forgetting it was a John Wick hand grenade. They're not as deadly, are they?
He must have been wearing one of those bulletproof suits that you see in John Wick 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, I kind of. So that I agree that the episode 3. We can get into spoilers because we're an hour in now. So anyone who's hanging in now is
okay.
So we can get into spoilers. So spoilers from here. So there's a lot. I mean, half of episode 3 is basically lots of action, and lots of that action is we're going to set up this character to fight this character that they had a bit of a beef with earlier in the show, and this character is going to fight this character, and all of that is very contrived. And I was a little bit disappointed with the way that the assault, their plan, from the point that Gibson escapes and he runs into he gets away, shuts the armory thing, and he locks the door. And then there's this big build up of everyone's coming out to kill them. But that doesn't really seem to happen. We only and most of those people seem to end up killing each other. but we just established by the delivery of the tube with the, we're now revoking this rule. These are the people we're looking for. So why are the staff then? We cut to several scenes later after many contrived fights. Why are the staff then fighting with the other random extra guests? That made no sense to me. Your
So,
thought?
actually, I can explain that one, and it's kind of explained in the scene right outside of the armory as well. The guests are going after each other because those are all the men from the Bowery that Winston recruits at the beginning of the episode. I still
Ah,
agree with you that yes, it's like you had this build up where it's like, oh, as soon as you guys get in there, it's gonna be fucking chaos. Like it's like 1% chance of survival kind of thing. But then very conveniently, every instance where we see a group of random hitmen, they happen to be just fighting everyone else.
yeah, it was. And I forgot that. Yeah, I remember Winston recruiting, but I didn't realize how many people he'd recruited, and that was all a bit lost on me. And that all got very confusing in the final fight. And I felt that that whole action sequence could have flowed a lot better if actually we didn't contrive to put all these people in different parts of the building, but they just moved through as a group and shit happened when they
I
were in the
wonder if that
same.
was then a budget thing, a limitation there,
It
because
was, I'll tell you what was a budget thing. Snap to black, lots of gunfire. That was,
I
I mean,
noticed that as well.
it worked. They did that they did that same technique in the movie that was made by the Coen brothers that was turned into a TV show. Billy Bob Thornton was the assassin, named after the place that's cold up towards Canada.
Fargo?
Fargo, thank you. See, with all those hints, you had to get there. In one of the episodes of Fargo, they couldn't afford to shoot the sequence of Billy Bob Thornton going through the gangsters' building, which was an office block, three-story office block. So they just followed the camera on from the outside of the building, moving through the rooms like that, with the accompanying gunfire and people falling down. And it was all done with sound design, and that was really clever. I thought, wow, that was actually. I see what you're doing there. You're saving money on a lot of action and squibs and whatnot. But it actually worked really well. It was really clever because it conveyed what we needed.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure that the flash to black here worked quite the same way. It was quite funny when the lights came up, though. The young, is it Mason, the black character, Lance Reddick's character? Is he called Mason? I forget his name now.
Sharon.
Sharon, sorry. His character, when the lights came up, there were all these bullet holes around him, but they'd all managed to miss him. It was almost like he was standing around one of those things where a machine gun's gone all the way around and just managed to miss you.
I would have appreciated that scene a bit more if they at least did like the flashing of the gunfire, like I've seen in other films. I think one of the John Wick films even did that too, where it was the flashing, so you kind of get a little more sense of how chaotic it is. But
yeah, you see the silhouettes of the people and that sort of thing. Dude, I've got short-term memory really bad, so just so you know, and that's a true thing. Relates to this big scar on my thumb, but we're not talking about that today. But I have talked about it on other streams, so I'll send you a time code or something. Okay. So my short-term memory, absolutely terrible. What was your name again? Oh yeah, Vex Electronica. Very good. The Vexorcist. So all my issues with the show were mainly with episode 3. The bit where we've got the fight with the two black characters and Hansel's got the better of them both, which I thought was cool. Actually, I like the fact that he's able to best them both on his own. It was very cool. And then the little kid appears, and there's the bit where it drops the gun. And I'll tell you where my head went, and I wonder if you did the same. I was straight into that episode of Game of Thrones where the daggers drop down for, with the thing with the Night King, and then the stab.
I haven't actually seen Game of Thrones, so I wouldn't know the reference. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's lost. If anyone in chat had that moment when they watched that bit, let me know. I'd be curious to know. Yeah, that was kind of... I wanted them to get out of that some other way. it was kind of cool, Sheelan shot him through the eye, and that was it, and it worked. But
The problem I had with that scene, and it's the problem I have with Lou's character as well, is first 2 episodes, it's all about, I understand this world. I know I need to survive in this world. That's why I've learned to defend myself. But I'm defending my father's honor. I'm defending what he has built here because ultimately that's all I have in this world at this time, right? And then it all just boils down to her. Oh, okay. She realizes her father did use guns, which is like, okay, is not a huge deal. You kind of had to know at some point he did, given who you're associated with. But this entire arc, just she lets the dojo go. She lets Chen take over the place. And that entire story we see over 3 episodes is reduced down to a one-armed Chinese boy throwing a gun down to her, which conveniently she knows where the safety and everything is, just in time to blow Hansel through the head with it. And then there's no repercussion about the fact that she just fired a gun next to her eardrum.
Is that? Yeah. Do you know what? That was the first thing I thought about as well. If you fire it that close, that's going to make your eardrum.
And it's
pop.
a big gun.
Yeah, it's like a Desert Eagle. Is that gun? I wanted to check this, but I didn't. Is that same gun used by John Wick later in the movies? Because it's got that particular inscription and stuff. And I was trying to remember if he ever had a gun.
I have no idea. I know the car, the Mustang that we see in episode 1, I know that's the same one that John Wick has in the movies.
Yeah. Yeah, and then his line was, "Sometimes objects speak to me," and I was a bit like, "Yeah."
Of course.
Yeah. Then we had so that you pointed out an important fact there, which was that gunshot, even in the John Wick universe, would have meant she would have been going like that. And actually, they could have added that in, and it would have just added something quite nice for me. I would have liked that. Then you had the fight on the roof, which for the most part was pretty good. And then what happened was, the bad lady surfaced out of the water. That's the Ukrainian actress we were talking about earlier. And she's got the belt of explosives, and then she blows up. Right now, there's a belt of about 4 bits of C4 on her. I just have to tell you now that if that explosion went off to you, even if you ducked under the water and you were that close, the pressure from the wave of the explosion would actually, when it hits you, would scramble all your organs inside your body. I know this because one of my areas of interest is the Battle of Arnhem, and there was one commander who, when he was trying to push forward to the bridge, was killed. And when they recovered his body, there wasn't a scratch on him. And what happened was a German mortar round went off right next to him, which is considerably less explosive than a big belt of 4 blocks of C4. And it was the shockwave of the rounds scrambles all the organs in your body when you get hit by a blast wave that close. So you don't need to be peppered with fragments to die. It scrambles your insides. So her brain would have been mush. She would have died.
I had that same issue with that. It was great until they came out of the pond with conveniently the detonator and the bag of C4. And I was saying the same thing. I know for a fact that C4 is far more than enough to just blow up this one little person. Like you're legitimately a trained suicide bomber. We learned that in the 2nd episode. So that
was a great backstory for her, by the way.
Agreed.
But
it's too much belief is, again, like we do a really good job of setting up a realistic, believable world and believable motivations for all these characters. And then it really felt, as much as I still enjoyed episode 3, they threw a lot of that out the window just so you could have that Wick style action. And so that some of these characters could have some sort of arc that at the same time was convenient enough to keep the plot going for, an hour and 40-minute finale.
Yeah.
So I don't know who started writing episode 3, but you could feel, you see, there's a very big difference between who was behind episodes 1 and 2 and who was behind episode 3.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to be sitting at those writers' tables meetings. I think this should happen. No, I think this should happen. Well, I've got to go and start filming the first episode now. So you finish up with that. Okay, yeah, I think that thing I said should happen. Should happen. So, you know, it might have gone that way. I mean, you never know with these things. There's lots of fingerprints on this show. It's not two people writing everything and, you know, spearheading the piece. But now, there's a counter argument to both of these things. Is well, it's the world of John Wick. It's a comic book sort of violent world, and my counter to that is yes, but you can't make these rules of what does damage. One rule for minions and bad guys, and a different rule for your protagonists, your heroes. It's got to be the rules of damage have got to be the same for both. Otherwise, then we lose all suspension of disbelief. Cat action taking place. What's going on? Is that a ball licking situation? Not sure we want to see.
Not balls yet. No, just back.
Okay. Very good. So there's two of them in there. There's just the two.
No, the other one's not there.
Yeah.
No, those are just my stuffed animals.
No, that's the one that I thought was dead. The stuffed dead one on the end of the bed.
Oh, now there's ball action going on.
Oh my god! Let's change topics quickly. Yeah. So, but that whole sequence with the two girls, it was very Tarantino-esque, which I didn't mind at all. I will say one thing about it. It's the first time I've seen a girl-on-girl fight where someone's got a karate chop to the Fangita. That was new for me. Haven't seen that in a TV show or a movie before. Maybe I haven't watched enough Asian martial arts films, but I certainly hadn't seen that before, where she did the whole, you know, when guys get smashed in the nuts and they do that.
Yeah.
They grab their crotch area. She did karate chop between the legs, and that girl looked in pain.
I think they've done that in. There's some super left-leaning comedy where they've done it. Amy Schumer, I know, has done it in something. So I have seen, but I've just never seen it done in a serious way like they did here.
Yeah, it was quite that was pretty funny. Ollie's saying, "Have my John Wick comment theories disappeared?" I did see those, mate. I didn't put them up because we were right in the middle of chatting about something more important at the time. Here they are. I'll put them up now, mate. Okay. Here's his theory one. On the absurdity as to why John Wick survives everything, it is linked to the Assassin's Creed universe. His blood marker on the back has the emblem. Part 2. John Wick cuts his finger off, which in the AC universe he does, saying to show his commitment, as they have the hidden blade sit where the missing finger is. Do you understand what the point he's making there?
I do understand the point that he's making. So the Assassin's Creed universe, there's a whole kind of blood brotherhood that links all of these assassins, not just across the world, but in like actual lineage. So that's an interesting theory. I like that.
There you go.
I actually had my own theory about this series.
Go for it. Let's talk theories.
Okay. I have 3 supporting points for this as well. Okay.
Let me dash to the bathroom while you're vocalizing those.
Okay.
But continue, because I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I don't want to hear you though.
No. I can hear you, but you can't hear me.
So first, my biggest theory is that Yen and Frankie are John Wick's parents. Okay. The 3 instances which support this. Okay. First off, Winston in all of the movies does everything he can to. Well, this actually isn't a supportive point. I'm just saying, Winston does everything he can to protect John throughout the films while maintaining his position as head of the Continental. Right. So in the film, the very precious car that he gets to drive around, John ends up getting that, and it's by this point it's completely restored. So he went through the effort to restore a very priceless car for John Wick. Second, In the second episode, where we get the backstory for Yen, right as her husband, her Vietnamese husband before Frankie, is suiting her up, she says, "I'm sorry I couldn't provide you with a son."
Yeah.
Third,
Yeah.
third, in the final episode, when she's about to blow up Hansel and Gretel before the rooftop scene, what's his face? The brother, the black brother.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He comes in and she's like, "I have nothing to live for." He's like, "But Yen, you do have something to live for." And then the last point is, in the first episode, I missed this one. In the first episode, when Winston first comes and finds Frankie in that abandoned theater or whatever,
Yeah.
they start talking about how they're ready to settle down, start a family, escape somewhere better to do so.
So you think these are John Wick's parents?
I do, and it would really, again, it would really
Yeah.
explain why Winston goes out of his way, despite the position he has and the rules that he has to follow, to help John
Yeah.
throughout the 4
Yeah. Yeah.
films.
Yeah. That does make a lot of sense, actually. Like
They
it.
even look because Keanu Reeves, he's a very ethnic looking guy, right? He is
Yeah.
definitely a
He
mix of
could. He
something.
could. He could have multiple.
Exactly.
Could be
And
Italian.
even
He could be a bit Middle Eastern. Lots
right.
going on there.
And in the film, it's not really explored what his background is, aside from the whole Russian ballerina thing, which even then we find out in the films that that was only, like, I think around 12 or 14 he was taken in by them, right?
Yeah.
Frankie even has kind of the John Wick beard and whatnot, and then Yen's it kind of solidifies as well why their romance is so strong and why it's so important to have specifically a husband and wife duo in the first episode.
Mm.
That's just me.
No. Yeah. I like that. That's interesting. I hadn't considered any of that.
Mhm.
I was looking for other like Easter eggs, but I wasn't really looking at the bigger picture of where people
Oh,
were fitting together. So you proper nailed that. No wonder you've got a luminous green magical headphones. So yeah. Any other tidbits that you?
um, I you know what? The biggest thing that I thought was disappointing, because I did like what her character implied, was the adjudicator. It didn't really go anywhere.
Mm,
Um, I didn't like, unlike you, I actually didn't like that face reveal at the end. It's not so much that I thought it was disgusting or anything. It's more that I like having that air of mystery, especially when it comes to more horrifying elements like that. Sometimes I would just prefer you left it as, I know something scary is behind that mask. I didn't
yeah.
need to see it.
I guess because he killed her, they decided to show it to us because she wasn't coming back, unless that's a Jedi pistol bullet round to the head, in which case minor brain surgery and she's back next week. But yeah, I like that scene, by the way. I thought that scene was great because I could see what was coming, and I
Mhm.
thought, yeah, I think he's going to kill her, and then he's not going to kill the guy. And yeah, when he turned to the guy gave it that kind of "don't shoot me, man, I'm just a driver" kind of look.
I'm just the
Uh,
sidekick here.
yeah, I'm not
Um,
even going for my gun.
but even then, I think it does leave enough of. This is one of those shows where I would like to see what they do with the second series. I can see how easily it would be to bungle it, but at the same time, I'm quite happy leaving it as open ended as it is, because it lets your imagination run wild a little bit.
Is it getting a second series?
Nothing has been confirmed, but it's just the way everything ends. Like, not only is there the whole adjudicator storyline that now we can follow with the high table and whatnot, because let's face it, high table is not in any way touched upon. It's
Mm,
just, it's alluded to. She says that, oh, the high table is interested, but that's it. And we know that there is a pretty significant connection between Winston and the high table just in the films alone. So there's
mm,
definitely something you can explore there. And then on top of that, you have, the brother and sister duo. Now their arcs kind of have leave it open, because Lou has gone through this whole, I don't have a purpose anymore, Whereas Miles, there we go, that's the brother's name. Whereas Miles, he no longer is just defaulted to kind of a gun running criminal because he has nothing else to do, right? Yen, like her entire arc was built off the fact that she wanted a family. She wanted a more traditional lifestyle, and Frankie was supposed to be that for her, but it didn't work out that way. So what is there left for her to do now? And Sharon finally finds him, finally finds himself as his own man. He's not a butler. He's not just kind of surviving to get his father over. Now he can stand on his own two legs and not have to worry about being under the thumb of anyone. So there's enough that they could keep going to expand it, but I worry just because of this era of TV and film that we're in, what that will lead to, especially when you see that there are people on the writing staff that have some questionable projects in the past. That's just where I'm at.
Well, Ollie's mentioned that there's another spin-off coming called Ballerina with Anna de Armas. I think you may have misspelled that, mate.
That's a film, though, in comparison.
Yeah, it's a movie set in the same world. I did not know this, however, that Lance Reddick is in it, and it will be his final on-screen appearance.
I actually didn't know that either.
Yeah, he had already shot his scenes for it, so clearly, I mean, maybe it's a quick flashback, or just looking to see if there's any images of the movie online yet. Oh, there's a poster and a couple of things.
I think it's supposed to come out in the spring, no?
Yeah, early 2024.
Okay.
Young female assassin who, guess what, is a ballerina. Norman Reedus is also in it, so I like him as an actor very much. He has a limited range, but within that range, he's always fantastic. And again, Ian McShane, Gabriel Byrne, fantastic actor.
So this must take place then in the current day if we still have Angelica Houston is there.
Takes place between the events of John Wick Chapter 3 and Chapter 4.
Okay,
Ballerina assassin Rooney.
This is not really a backstory then.
No, I guess it's a parallel spin-off where some of the other characters dip in and out. Principal photography shot in and around Prague. Right. So I think the reason that this mainly shot in early 2022. So so Riddick was very much alive at that time. So I guess I'm hoping his role's pretty substantial. I guess we'll see. I'm getting the sense that Ollie's not a big fan of Anna de Armas.
I actually don't understand the hype around her whatsoever. I'm going to be honest. She's a pretty face, and that's about it. I don't think she's a particularly talented actress.
It's funny because was a Bond girl in No Time to Die, and I have to confess, I had entirely forgotten anything about that Bond girl, and I wasn't a big fan of that movie, to be honest.
She was in another film with Keanu Reeves, I think in like 2014 or 2015 called Knock Knock. It's a god awful film, but a lot of people like it because she's full frontal in it, and she and Keanu engage in a threesome in that film, and you get quite a bit of visual confirmation that a threesome is happening. So
I'm sure people in chat are Googling stills as we speak. Okay, so heading towards beginning to wrap this up. Further comments in the chat, chuck them in now. So Vex, what would you give this out of 10 on IMDb? What would your rating be?
Probably an 8.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking about that today. And when I got, obviously, I haven't had time to have it sink in yet. And normally when we chew the fat on something, I've usually watched it 2 or 3 times. Mine is somewhere between a 7 and an 8. First episode for me is an 8. Second episode for me is probably 7.5, and the third episode is probably a 7 out of 10. But overall, I think an 8 out of 10 is fair. Yeah, so I'm somewhere between a 7 and 8 out of 10. It's a good show. It's not the greatest show ever, but it feels very, very within the world of John Wick. It breaks rules occasionally, but no more than John Wick 4 did. So if you like John Wick 4, you're not going to dislike this. I liked this better than John Wick 4.
I actually like this far better than John Wick 2, 3, and 4.
That's
Just
interesting.
because, like, as much as I can appreciate kind of well executed mindless action, I do enjoy more like film and TV that gives you a little more like underlying like
Yeah.
plots and themes, and I found that really really heavy in this show, which I appreciated because most of the stuff I've been watching as of late, Ahsoka for example, it's incredibly shallow to the point where you wonder if the people writing this show even dream at all. Like it's I've just been continuously disappointed. So yeah, while it's not perfect television, I think it feels like a return to form of kind of that peak of 90s early 2000s television that we got to experience.
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. It's one of the things that I've noticed is just a trend with films generally, and you can almost hear the discussions in the production meetings, and it's always like, oh well, how are we going to top the last movie? Well, I've got an idea. We're going to go bigger. You see, like last time, the guys had a big spaceship. What about if this time, if the bad guys have an even bigger spaceship, but like really big?
Hmm.
And I like, and then when I'm watching that, I'm like, oh, really? Actually, would be much better if the bad guy just had a regular spaceship, like in Wrath of Khan, and
Hmm.
instead of 50 spaceships flying around at 900 miles an hour, and I can't tell who's who, like a Transformers movie, why don't you just have a space battle between 4 spaceships, 2 on each side, like the end of Star Trek 6 or something. Actually, it was 3 altogether, but you know what I mean. And it just, and it's the same with action. The more complex and over top the action is, and also the more hits that people can take and the more unrealistic damage that they can take, the less suspenseful or the less engaging for me action in a film is. And
Hmm.
one of the things I'm going to do pretty soon, and it'd be great if you want to be on it, it'll probably be on a Saturday night, so your Saturday afternoon, is
Okay.
I want to get a group of panelists on, and I want everybody to have a list of their top 5 action scenes from any movie of any genre, and you're gonna talk about why that action scene is in your top 5. And I'm gonna set up some rules for this.
Hmm.
And one of the rules is going to be: is the action scene realistic within the concept of reality as we know it? Therefore, do you believe that it's happening? So, for
Hmm.
example, if somebody said, well, I'm going to put the roundabout scene in from John Wick 4 as one of my choices, I, as adjudicator, would say, fuck off. That's not allowed. So, even though it's a fun scene, but I can't say that that's one of the best action scenes of all time, because first of all, we know tons of it is CGI. So
Hmm.
it's not great stunt work alone. It's a combination of post-production, visual effects, and all the rest of it. And I'm not putting down the filmmakers. That sequence of itself is perfectly fine, but that's not the kind of action that I'm talking about.
Hmm.
You want something that's on the edge of your seat. Now, I like films from all different eras,
Hmm.
so I don't just like older films, but some of the older films where the action scenes are quite restrained, and are I'm just going to take this I'm going to show you a quick clip, but I don't want to get ratioed here, so I'm going to keep it muted, and we'll just go for a couple of seconds. But have you ever seen a film called The Wild Geese?
No.
Well, you're going to see it now, because the whole film is on YouTube, and you can actually see a pretty good copy of it on YouTube. There's a couple of different versions of it, but this one, which is uploaded by a Greek guy.
So hold on. When you say realistic, or can you believe it? I'm guessing the like the final fight between Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Predator in Predator doesn't count because technically the Predator doesn't exist.
No, because within the world that you've been presented in that film, that's a believable fight.
Gotcha. Okay.
Within the world that we've been presented with in John Wick, I would say that fight's not believable. Even because we said that at the beginning of the stream, we said even in the world of John Wick 4 is kind of pushing the John Wick rules a bit. You know, just how bulletproof are these coats? You know,
I mean, that was my favorite part of that film was the fight scene on top of the Osaka Continental.
Yeah, that was good.
I just every time that
was good.
Oh god, the suit is just so convenient, even at point blank range for defending bullets. Oh my god.
So I'm gonna just show you a quick clip of this. I won't be showing any sound, but this is from this movie, The Wild Geese, which stars Richard Burton, Roger Moore, Richard Harris, the original Dumbledore, and Hardy Kruger, 4 very big name actors at the time. It's about a group of mercenaries who go in to rescue an African leader. They get betrayed. They have to fight their way out to survive. This is right near the end of the movie where a whole load of them are trying to get to this aircraft, and they split up into 2 groups. One group's got the guy that they've been trying to rescue, who's been injured, who's being carried in this stretcher right here. The other group has gone round and have attracted the attention of the bad guys that are between them and the plane. You're only allowed to show so many seconds. He was doing a play in the UK when the lockdown happened, and I'd written to him and I was saying, "Oh, I'm coming to see your show, and really looking forward to it. And don't hate me, but one of my favourite films that you're in was The Wild Geese, and I actually hired out a cinema because I'd never seen it on the big screen to show that movie for my 30th birthday." And the only time I could afford to get the cinema was at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. So all these friends of mine turned up and they were all hungover from the night before, not in the best of moods. So, oh, for God's sake, Lance, why have you dragged us out? What are we doing here? And anyway, I said, well, I'm taking you to see a surprise movie. And that was the film that we went to see. But it's a bit cheesy in places at the beginning, and then some of the early stuff, particularly the scenes with the kid, which when you watch the movie you'll see have not dated well. But all of once you get into Africa, trust me on this, when people start dying, you feel it, and that's one of the things that's great about an action film that's set in the real world, where suddenly people can get killed. And I think that's, some of the best action scenes I've ever seen have been in period films. One that immediately comes to mind is Last of the Mohicans. So you remember the scene where they get ambushed? Have you seen that movie with Daniel Day-Lewis?
It's been a while. I need to rewatch it. So my memory is not the greatest on it.
It's got a hunky man in it with long hair who's a bit cavalish. So, a rewatch.
Anything with cowboys are considered hunky to me. So...
Anyway, wrapping up on this, Ollie's saying John Wick franchise was written on a napkin. Stories wafer thin, leaving blah blah blah. Okay, it's. I mean, the John Wick franchise. I think it's a perfectly fine franchise. It does what it says on the tin. John Wick has guns. You killed my dog. I'm going to kill people. That's pretty much it. So I'm not looking for a big cerebral experience when I go to see a John Wick movie. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, if I can go and see a film where I really care about the characters, and then about halfway into the movie, I know some of those characters might get killed, but I want them all to get away.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sign of a good script writer right there. And the guy who wrote the script for The Wild Geese is the same script writer who wrote the script for 12 Angry Men.
Oh.
Yeah, Reginald Rose. So he knew what he was doing with the characters and the dialogue and all the rest of it. So that film is on YouTube. If anyone wants to check it out, there's the link. But it's a pretty low res copy, so just watch that on a laptop. If you watch it on a big super wide screen, it's going to be a little bit pixelated. You might be able to find a better quality copy online, or you can do what I did and buy the Blu-ray. So yeah. So overall, I think me and Vex are both fans of the show. Fair comment.
Yes.
I don't need to see another Continental spin-off personally.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably room to do more. And if you were going to do another one, I would do one set in the 80s. I think that could be quite good fun with the hairstyles and fashion.
All the colors and whatnot, and
yeah,
drug culture at its peak, kind of.
Oh, that was one thing I wanted to comment on with the music, with the songs. The songs were great.
Mm-hmm.
They even had one of the songs from Nielsen in there, the guy that's always being used by Tarantino. But they also had that funny instrumental pop song that was #1 in the 70s for quite a while, and I think it might have been called Oxygen. The song, it's that one that is playing during the action sequence where loads of people are getting killed, not the I Can't Live anymore. That's the Nelson song. That was great.
Oh, yes. When Yen is starting to...
Yeah, where it's going...
Yes, yes.
That one. Well, that was #1 in the UK charts for a really long time. I had to hear that on the radio, like a lot, when I was a wee boy. And it's got that annoying kind of hook that you don't forget. And it got played. I think it's called Oxygen. It's got some weird name like that. And when that came on, I was like, oh my God, we are in the 70s. You know, I was taken right back. So, okay, we're coming up to 2-hour mark. So guys and girls are going to wrap this up. Vex, what have you got coming up on your channel, other channels? When is it time to feed Henry in his cage? What's going on? Tell us everything.
Henry feeds me. So let's get that straight first of all. I just released actually a video yesterday reviewing the last 2 episodes of the Continental. Again, we covered a lot of stuff here, but I had some more gripes with it. You can go see that there, and I had an episode 1 review as well. Other than that, I am on Mrs. Cannoli Sasquatch's or Mrs. Sassy Sasquatch's
We
channel
like Sassy. Sassy is awesome. She was on earlier. I think she was on earlier.
She was, yeah. I think when we go live, it's just the end of the workday hitting for them. That's all, because they're on West Coast USA.
Right. Plus, they've also got to dress up in their Sasquatch costumes and make sure that some campers accidentally film them running past tents and pine trees and things. That's a fairly big obligation on a weekly basis. Yeah.
But we have a monthly stream that we do called The Female Perspective, where we kind of see what pop culture is doing to women and how it's usually a bunch of bullshit. So that's tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern, or I guess that would be 2 a.m. UK time.
Right.
But you can follow me on Twitter at Vex Electronica. I always post whenever I'm going live or showing up somewhere.
Deets down there.
Yes. But other than that, I go for my immigration interview on Mondays, so I'm not really going to be on any streams this weekend.
Hang on a minute. I thought you were a full-blooded American with green headphones.
No, I am a Canadian, unfortunately. That's why I know so much about your television.
I don't think Canadians are allowed on the Outcast channel. I don't remember that. No, I'm kidding. Canadian Bacon. That was a good movie. That was one of the few non-documentary films directed by Michael Moore, who is also a Canadian, I believe.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've got a lot of recording next week. So, but yeah, that's I don't know what I'm gonna make a video on next. I'm unsure at this point.
I've got a backlog of like gut reaction, chew the fat things, a whole host of stuff. More things I want to review and talk about than I've got time.
I really want to talk to you or break down The Reckoning.
Yeah, well,
in the near future.
we should definitely do that. You haven't seen it all yet. For those people watching, that is the 4-part drama, co-production of BBC and ITV, about the reign of Jimmy Savile. It was 4 episodes. I think it could have been longer. Personally, I actually think.
Are all 4 episodes out in the UK?
All 4 episodes, yeah, they all dropped on the same day, and I binged it, saw them all. They are all out in the UK. That is correct. So I think it's being released weekly or something elsewhere, but you can't get BBC iPlayer over there.
No, but I can find other ways to.
I dare say that's possible. But yeah, all 4 episodes are now out. I've seen it all. I am going to do a review of it. I'm going to do it. It's probably going to be on the Best of British Drama because it does qualify. It's a good one. Anything 7 out of 10 or above. But I do have some issues with it. I'm surprised it's a BBC co-production. I guess it's one of their ways of assuaging their own guilt. But at the same time, it was never going to go far enough. And I think that the people who let him get away with his behaviour got off in the film very, very lightly. And I don't think enough of them were mentioned. And one of the biggest parts of the scandal was the BBC cancelling the Newsnight investigation into Savile that was going on, that was going to be released so that they could do a Jimmy Savile dedication program and have a Jimmy Savile Christmas, as one reporter put it to me. And I think there's a drama to be made about that. I think it would be a very interesting drama to be made about the decisions that were taken. And then what happened was then you had Panorama, which is another major. Newsnight and Panorama are the 2 big BBC-funded documentary programs that tackle serious issues and serious topics. Newsnight's doing a Jimmy Savile thing, and it gets canned, right? They get told, we're no longer going to do that program. Panorama journalists find out about this. So Panorama then starts investigating why Newsnight was cancelled. So you have this really bizarre situation, never happened before, where one documentary department of the BBC is investigating another documentary department of the BBC for their actions or inactions. And it's never become quite clear who made that decision, who had the power, where did the buck stop, who cancelled that Newsnight program. Because whoever did that was either under tremendous pressure from people outside the Beeb that forced them to do it, or they were already aware of what was going to come out, and they, either way, they're culpable. So, yeah, that was a big. That hasn't been made, and it's barely mentioned in the series, which is a bit of a shame. I was expecting that to be covered a little bit more detail. So. But there's Steve Coogan is amazing in that. Amazing. And are you going to be on the Departed stream on Cannoli on Monday?
Maybe. My visa interview is 5 hours away in Montreal in Quebec.
Oh,
so
damn!
I gotta drive out there and then drive back, and my interview's at 7:30 in the morning. So if I'm awake, I will hop on, but I don't think I will have the energy to be part of it.
And if not, then you may be starring in your own movie called The Deported, which will be in a couple of weeks after that. Hopefully not, because the cats might not be able to go with you. Does it go up to 10? No, it's 4 episodes, Darth, if you're talking about. Yeah, okay, well, briefly, and I mentioned most of this stuff earlier, so I will keep it brief. Coming up next from me, I've got I'm doing a special on Saturday where I'm going to be reviewing the re-release Blu-ray of Cutthroat Island, which is here. There it is. I just purchased my own copy, which Matthew Modine liked my post about this. But even more bizarre, right after that, Kevin Bacon decided to follow me on Twitter. So I'm now 1 degree away from Kevin Bacon.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been, and a couple of days before that, Richard Armitage followed me on Twitter, and a couple of days before that, Gail Ann Hurd followed me on Twitter, who's the producer of Terminator and Terminator 2 and The Abyss, and
Wow.
and that was because I wrote a really nice knife comment thing about to do with people and remembering things, and it was nothing to do with industry chat. So I was really quite gobsmacked. I'm sure Jason Flemyng had something to do with the Kevin Bacon thing, because a funny quick story there was during lockdown, Bacon doesn't even follow me on Twitter, and there was one point in lockdown, like most people kind of met a point where they were like, ah! And myself and my ex-partner were not getting on very well at one stage, although for the most time we were doing much better than many other couples. And I was on the computer and I vented. I wrote some post about, oh my God, today is just one of the worst days ever. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Mm-hmm. And like 30 seconds later, someone's put a comment underneath it, and it's Kevin Bacon, and he doesn't even follow me on Twitter. So how did he even see my comment, first of all? And he said, "Don't worry, man, hang in there. You're going to be okay. It will get better." So bizarre. But very much appreciated, Mr. Bacon. That meant quite a lot to me at the time. Really cheered me up. So yeah. So tomorrow I'm doing The Long Shadow and The Hunt for the Yorkshire Ripper, 2 drama series about the same topic. We're covering Our Friends in the North the weekend after that, and then the next industry interview I have scheduled at the minute. Don't forget, I can get guests in at the last minute. Is Jeff Farley, who is a Babylon 5 makeup artist on 2 seasons of B5, if you're a fan of B5. He also did movies like Demolition Man. He's got about 200 credits in the world of special effects, practical special effects and makeup special effects. And he's promising to bring a couple of little toys on to put a show on camera on the, who knows, there might be some sort of exploding cat or something like that. If there is, Vex, I'll definitely get a still of that for you. Okay, brilliant. So before I lose my voice, I guess that's it from us. Just remains for me to say thank you to the Vexorcists for coming on. I love collaborating with other YouTubers. Always great to have you on. If you're up for doing that top 5 action thing, I'll give you a date, and if you can be one of the panelists on that, that'd be great.
Give me a date, and thank you for having me as well. I really enjoyed talking to you at other streams, so it's nice to finally have just a stream one-on-one where we can dissect something. So I had a good time. Thank you.
I always feel like I'm interrupting when I'm on a stream with 6 people, but sometimes you have to interrupt to say anything. So it can be entertaining. Okay, that's it from us, guys. Don't forget, Vex's info is all down there. And remember what I always say: if you haven't spoken to somebody in quite a while that you care about, don't forget to pick up the phone and tell them that you love them, because trust me, they're going to appreciate it. I will see you all again real soon.